The email came in at 6:14 a.m. I was sitting on the edge of a narrow hotel bed in Lisbon, tying my shoes for work, when my phone buzzed. The subject line was blank. The message was 4 sentences long. Your role has been terminated effective immediately. Do not contact clients. Your company access has been revoked. That was it. No explanation. No call. No plan to get me home. I read it again, then a third time, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. The room felt very quiet. Too quiet. Outside, I could hear traffic and voices and the sound of a city waking up, while my life was falling apart in a foreign country. My name is Noah. I'm 35 years old. I have a 7-year-old son named Eli who thinks I'm the strongest person in the world because I can open stuck pickle jars. He tells his friends about it at school. It's the kind of thing that makes you feel like you matter, like you're someone's hero. I had $62 in my wallet. My return flight was booked on the company account, which meant it was probably canceled already. And my job was gone. Just like that. No warning. No conversation. Just an email delivered while I was 3,000 miles from home, sitting in a hotel room that smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaning spray. Let me tell you how I got there. I worked for a global logistics company called Northway Solutions. I was a regional operations manager. That sounds fancy, but really it meant fixing problems no one else wanted to touch. Late shipments. Angry clients. Broken systems that had been held together with duct tape and prayers for years. I was good at it. Not loud good. Quite good. The kind of good where people don't notice until you're gone. I stayed late. I answered calls no one else would. I remembered names and birthdays and the names of people's kids. I solved problems before they exploded into disasters that ended up on executive dashboards. My boss, Derek, loved results but hated people. He was the kind of manager who treated employees like interchangeable parts in a machine. He liked to remind me I was replaceable. He said it like a joke, but it never felt like one. It felt like a threat wrapped in a smile. 2 months before Lisbon, Northway landed a massive European client. It was supposed to be a breakthrough deal, the kind that gets mentioned in quarterly earnings calls. Something went wrong right away. Warehouses were misaligned. Inventory systems didn't talk to each other. Deadlines were slipping. The client was furious. Derek called me into his office on a Tuesday afternoon. I need you in Portugal, he said. For how long? I asked. Derek shrugged. As long as it takes. I thought about Eli. About school drop-offs and homework help and the way he still asked me to check for monsters at night, even though he was getting too old for that. About the fact that his mom and I split up 2 years ago, and I was the stable parent now. The one he counted on. I'll go, I said finally. But I need support from the team here. Derek smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. That's what your salary is for, Noah? Handling things. I should have seen it then. The way he looked at me like I was already gone. Lisbon was beautiful. I barely saw it. I spent 3 weeks running between warehouses on the outskirts of the city, sitting in cold conference rooms with fluorescent lights that buzzed, calming furious partners who spoke rapid Portuguese and broken English. I learned names. I learned about their families, their concerns, their frustrations with Northway. I listened. Really listened. Not the kind of listening where you're just waiting for your turn to talk, but the kind where you're trying to understand what's actually wrong. People started trusting me. They stopped seeing me as just another corporate representative and started seeing me as someone who genuinely wanted to fix things. We rebuilt the operation piece by piece. By the end of week 3, the client was happy. More than happy. They were impressed. The warehouse systems were synchronized. The delivery schedules were back on track. The partnership was not only saved but strengthened. They were ready to expand the contract. It was worth $18 million over 2 years. $18 million that wouldn't have existed without the work I'd done. The signing meeting was scheduled for Friday morning at their headquarters. I called Derek to update him. He sounded pleased, almost warm. Good work, Noah. We knew you could pull this off. The email came Wednesday morning, 2 days before the signing. After the shock wore off, fear moved in. How do I get home? How do I tell my son? What did I do wrong? The questions circled in my head like vultures. I emailed HR. No response. I called Derek. Straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times. Nothing. That's when I noticed something else. My work laptop had logged me out. When I tried to log back in, it said my credentials were invalid. My email account was gone. My access to the company systems, contacts, everything, wiped clean. But I still had my personal notebook. The one I kept because I didn't trust company systems, because I'd seen too many technical failures over the years. It had timelines, contacts, meeting notes, and detailed records about the expansion deal. Every conversation with the client. Every promise made. Every milestone achieved. And one detail Derek had completely ignored when he sent that termination email. The European client had insisted that I be the lead contact. My name was written into the agreement drafts. Not Northway Solutions as a general entity, but me specifically. They trusted me, not the company. At the time, I thought it was just a compliment, a sign that I'd built good relationships. Now, sitting in that hotel room with my career in ruins, it was leverage. Maybe the only leverage I had left. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of Lisbon outside my window. I kept thinking about Eli. About how I told him I was doing this trip for us, that the sacrifice of being away would lead to something better. About how he'd hugged me at the airport and said, "Come back soon, Dad." I thought about calling him, but what would I say? That I'd failed? That I'd been thrown away like I didn't matter? By morning, something inside me had changed. I wasn't angry. Anger is hot and wild and unfocused. I was clear, cold, determined. I decided I was going to the meeting anyway. I took the metro to the client's headquarters. My hands were shaking as I walked through the glass doors of their building. Sophia, the client's director of operations, was in the lobby talking to her assistant. When she saw me, she smiled. "Noah, we were worried. We heard something strange from your company this morning." My stomach dropped. "What did they say?" She frowned. "That there would be a different representative at today's meeting. They didn't explain why. We told them the meeting was with you or not at all." I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where I either salvaged something or lost everything. "I don't work for Northway anymore," I said. "They fired me by email yesterday." Her smile disappeared. "They did what?" I explained everything. Slowly. Honestly. The email at 6:14 a.m. The lack of explanation. The revoked access. The fact that they hadn't even arranged for me to get home. When I finished, the room was silent. Sophia's assistant looked horrified. Sophia herself looked furious. She closed the folder she'd been holding. "Then there will be no signing today," she said firmly. My heart jumped. "I understand if you need to work with Northway's replacement." "No," she interrupted. "We don't work with companies that treat people like that. We don't erase the work of someone who built trust and saved this partnership. That's not how we do business." She looked at me carefully, studying my face. "What are you going to do next?" I didn't have an answer. I hadn't thought past this moment. Sophia nodded once as if she'd made a decision. "Then let me make you an offer. We need someone to help us finish this expansion properly. Not Northway. Directly. A consulting contract. Short-term but fair pay. We'll handle it properly." I stared at her. "You're serious?" "Very serious," she said. "You earned our trust. That matters more than a company name on a contract." She extended her hand. "Think about it today. We'll talk tomorrow." They also offered to pay for my flight home. I walked out of that building feeling like I could breathe for the first time in 24 hours. By that afternoon, my phone started ringing. Northway's number. Over and over. I didn't answer. I watched it buzz on the table while I ate lunch at a small cafe near my hotel. Let them wonder. Let them panic. That evening, I got a text from Derek. "Call me. Now." I deleted it. An hour later, another one. "We need to talk about the client situation." I turned my phone off. The next morning, I met with Sophia again. We discussed terms. The scope of work. Timeline. Payment structure. Everything was professional, respectful, clear. She had her legal team draw up a contract. I reviewed it carefully. It was fair. More than fair. By noon, I'd signed it. By afternoon, my phone was exploding with messages from Northway. Derek finally reached me through my personal email. The message was different now. "Noah, let's talk. This whole situation went too far. There was a miscommunication. We can fix this." A miscommunication. That's what they were calling it. Not a mistake. Not wrongful termination. A miscommunication. I stared at the email for a long time. I thought about responding. About telling him exactly what I thought of him and his miscommunication. Instead, I closed my laptop. I didn't reply. Silence, I realized, was more powerful than any words I could send. They'd made their choice. Now I was making mine. I booked my flight home using the money Sophia's company had wired to my account. Business class. Why not? Eli ran into my arms at the airport like I'd been gone for years. He wrapped his legs around my waist and buried his face in my shoulder. "You're back early," he said when he finally let go. Yeah, I smiled, ruffling his hair. Plans changed. Good plans or bad plans? He asked with that serious look kids get when they know something's wrong. Different plans, I said. But good ones. That night, after I tucked him in and read him 2 chapters of his favorite book and checked for monsters one more time, I sat in the kitchen and cried. Not because I was sad. Not because I was scared. Because I was free. Free from Derek. Free from a company that saw me as replaceable. Free to build something better. Over the next few weeks, the news trickled back to me through old colleagues. Northway lost the European client. Sophia's company had officially terminated the contract. They cited fundamental differences in business values and ethics. Then another client left. One I'd worked with for years. They'd heard what happened. They didn't like it. Then Derek was let go. Quietly. No announcement. Just gone one day. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't tell the story for a long time. What was the point? Revenge doesn't taste as good as people think it does. Instead, I focused on work. On Eli. On building something better. The consulting work with Sophia's company went well. Really well. They referred me to other companies. My reputation spread through word of mouth, the old-fashioned way, through trust and results rather than marketing and branding. 6 months after Lisbon, I had enough clients to make it sustainable. A year later, I registered my own small consulting firm. Nothing flashy. No fancy office. No employees yet. Just me, my laptop, my notebook, and the relationships I'd built over years of showing up and doing good work. But it was honest, and it was mine. I set my own hours. I chose my clients. I could be at Eli's school events. I could tuck him in every night. I could build a business that reflected my values instead of compromising them for a paycheck. Sometimes Eli asks me why I don't work for a big company anymore. All his friends' parents work for big companies with impressive names. I tell him, because big doesn't always mean kind. And I'd rather build something small and kind than work for something big and cruel. He thinks about that, then nods in that solemn way he has. That makes sense, Dad. One evening we're making dinner together. His job is stirring the pasta, and he asks, "Are you happy now?" I pause. Consider the question seriously. "Yeah, buddy. I really am." "Good," he says and goes back to stirring. It's that simple for him. And maybe it should be that simple for all of us. They fired me by email while I was trapped in another country. They thought I would panic. They thought I would beg. They thought I would disappear quietly and let them replace me without consequence. They thought wrong. Instead, I learned something important. When people show you that you don't matter to them, believe them the first time. Don't wait for a second chance or an explanation. Don't hope they'll change or realize your value. Just believe them. Then choose yourself. Choose your dignity. Choose your future. Choose the people who actually see you and value you. Sometimes that's not just survival. Sometimes that's the beginning of everything. That email in Lisbon wasn't the end of my career. It was the beginning of my life.